Hi everybody, Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of the beautiful book, Solo Standards for Piano, the lovely book, playing solo jazz piano, the pretty, handsome book, Jazz Piano Fundamentals. I put some bundles together at jeremysiskind.com. If you want to get a discount for buying multiple at once, you can head over there. So today I want to talk about the tritone substitution. And I've been teaching it again recently, and I think I have a slight idea how to teach it better now than I've taught it before. So I'm going to do my best. Now, the general idea of the tritone substitution is that when we have a dominant chord, we can substitute it, we can swap it out for the dominant chord, which is a tritone away. A tritone is the interval of an augmented fourth or diminished fifth. 3 whole steps is why it's called a tritone. So, just like, for example, if I'm playing a 2-5-1 in C, I'd go D minor, G7, C major 7. Or if I want to do the tritone substitution, I'd go D minor. Instead of going to G7, I'll go to D flat 7. That's the tritone substitution. And then to C major 7. I'll give you one more example. I'll play some more notes. If I'm doing a 2-5-1 in F, I'm going G minor 7, C7, F major. Okay. Or if I'm doing the tritone substitution, I'm going G minor 7, G flat 7, F major. Now, it is true that what we're doing is we're substituting one chord for another, right? As I was playing that, I said instead of G7, I'm going to play D flat 7. But I think when you're conceiving this, if this is new or new-ish to you, if it still confuses you every now and then, what I want to tell you is not so much that we're switching one chord for another, but that at their roots, these are slightly different versions of the same chord. And I want to prove that to you in a little chart that I'm going to make up. So instead of thinking I'm substituting one for the other, I want you to think these two are 2 versions of the same chord. And you could even think of them as 2 inversions, right? Meaning that we're just changing the bass note to get one or the other. Okay, so I've got this chart, and I made it for C7, and it's tritone substitute, G flat 7. And I've got 4 categories here. So the first one is essential tones. And essential tones in any chord are usually the 3rd and the 7th. And these chords wouldn't have any exceptions. So C7, we're going to have E and B flat. For G flat 7, technically it would be B flat and F flat. But of course we know that F flat and harmonically is the same as E. So what we can see is that the essential tones are equivalent. If you play these 2 notes, E and B, whether you play a C on bottom or a G flat on bottom, you're forming that dominant 7th chord. Now the roles are reversed, okay? But it doesn't really matter that much that the roles are reversed, right? By that I mean that the E is the 3rd of the C7, but it's the 7th of the G flat 7. But it doesn't really matter because we're going to always be using those essential tones and often putting them near the bottom of any voicing that we're using. Okay, so the next thing we've got is color tones. So these are notes that are just commonly added. And so here we're going to be using the 5th, the 9th, and the 13th. These are generally considered the color tones. And you know what, just for kicks, we're going to add the root. Not really a color tone, it's not adding that much color, but sometimes we can add it at the top of our voicing. So the 5th, we've got G, the 9th is D, the 13th is A, and the root is C. Okay, for G flat, this is a little bit harder, but I am a professional. I can do this. The 5th is D flat, the 9th is A flat, the 13th, same as the 6th, is E flat, and of course the root is G flat. All right. Next, we're going to go to the altered tones, right? Altered tones, there's 4 altered tones, which we could think of as the flat 5, the sharp 5, the flat 9, and the sharp 9. Now, 2 of those have equivalents. So the flat 5 is the same as the sharp 11. The sharp 5 is the same as the flat 13th. and then the flat 9 and the sharp 9. Hopefully that's all legible. Okay, so for C7, the flat 5, I'm going to write these all as flats for reasons you're going to see soon. It's G flat, flat 13 is A flat, flat 9 is D flat, and the sharp 9 is E flat. All right. And then for G flat 7, flat 5 is C, sharp 5 is D, flat 9 is G, sharp 9 is A. Okay, you guys are smart. You probably noticed something. The color tones for C7, every single one of them become altered tones for G flat 7. The altered tones, I'll say that better, so that you can hear the equivalency. The color tones for G flat 7 all become altered tones for C7. So basically means that when you play a normal C7, if you put G flat on the bottom, it's going to sound like it's got all of your alterations, right? So for instance, if I play, here's a nice C7 voicing with the 9th, the 5th, the 13th, in addition to the 2 essential tones. If I play that same thing with G flat on the bottom, it sounds like a highly altered chord. Unaltered, altered. And then the exact opposite will take place here. If I play a beautiful G flat 7 voicing with no alterations, when I put C on the bottom, it's going to have a bunch of alterations. Okay. And then lastly, we have avoid tones. And probably the good news about dominant chords is we have very few avoid tones because we have all these potential altered tones. But we want to avoid or resolve the 4th and the major 7th. Those are kind of the 2 notes that really don't go well. Okay? So for C7, the 4th is F, the major 7th is B. Guess what, folks? I feel like I'm doing a magic trick here. On the G flat 7, I wrote 4 instead of F. Good for me. I was really about to be so victorious, and then I realized what an idiot I am. All right, on the G flat 7, the 4th is technically C flat. I'm going to call it B, and the major 7th is F. So we want to avoid the same 2 tones as well. So what's our conclusion here? What I'm trying to get you to see is that these 2 are essentially the same chord. The essential tones are equivalent, right? The avoid tones are equivalent. The only thing that's interesting is that the color tones become the altered tones. The color tones of one will be the altered tones of the other. The altered tones of one will become the color tones of the other. And this is one of the reasons why the tritone substitution can be useful. If you're trying to play voicings that have more altered tones in them, you could just simply play a tritone sub with the color tones of one chord. And I teach my students to do this when improvising. I'll show you one thing and then I'll end this video. My work here I feel like is mostly done. But so I work hard to get my students to play 3, 5, 7, 9 arpeggios. If you've been watching this channel a long time, you've probably heard me harp on this. I'm a big believer. I'm a true believer in 3, 5, 7, 9 arpeggios. Not a true believer in a lot of things in life, but here's one of them. Now, this is going to sound lovely for D minor. It's going to sound lovely for C major. And of course, it's going to sound fine for G7. Totally fine, nothing wrong with it. But if we want to go that next step, we're going to enact that tritone substitution, and we're going to do the 3, 5, 7, 9 of the D flat 7. I'm just going to write this as a B, even though it's not technically correct. So here's now 3, 5, 7, 9 of D flat 7. But assuming we're going to hear this against that original G7, it's going to sound like we're playing the 7th, the flat 9, the 3rd, whoa, and the flat 13. So we get this really colorful arpeggio that also, we should say, voice leads beautifully from one chord to the next. So to me, that's how I want my students to think of the tritone substitution. Yes, on one hand, we are trading one chord for another, but in reality, these two are two different versions of the same chord. So I hope that helps you understand and hope that helps you to conceptualize that. If you have watched this far, say something about what you might substitute, a substitution that you make in your life. Maybe you like to substitute mayonnaise for butter. That sounds gross, but maybe that's what you do. Or use the word substitution in your comments. Great. I'm done. I'm floundering here. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.